Cool, cool, cool. Thanks everyone for joining us. All right. Okay, let's go in. Okay. Well, hello everybody, and thanks for tuning in. I am Michael Kabuko, and welcome to the CGMA Jam session where we dive into the creative mindset of artists from around the globe. Today's guest is Hannah Kang, a digital sculptor and designer over at Legacy Effects. Hannah has worked on a number of amazing film titles such as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Pacific Rim 2, the much anticipated Avengers Infinity War. In addition, her diverse skill set gave her the opportunity to work on projects such as Call of Duty, Doom, Crash Bandicoot, and the world famous Georgia Lottery's Flying Pig. If that doesn't sound like she has enough on her plate already, she also teaches for CGMA for our Stylized character creation course starting soon. Well, Hannah, it's a pleasure to chat with you after such a long time, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and it's really nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, definitely. So much has happened since I was in your portfolio class with Travis, and I just want to first thank you for your time and wish you the biggest congrats on the many accomplishments you've had so far this year.
Oh no, man, you're playing me up.
Oh,
No, but I'm super grateful for like every step of the way that I ended up here, and definitely like through this session we can dive into like how I ended up at Legacy FX and all that.
sure, sure, sure. So behind every greatest artist is a very unique and personal artistic journey. So do you remember your first experience with art, and did you think that art could eventually turn into a job opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know how a lot of when you hear a lot of interviews, it always starts out with, "Oh, I knew I wanted to do art when I was young," so on and so forth, right? And you know, when you do draw when you're young, you do it out of an interest and a hobby, but you never really think of it as this is what I'm going to do for a living. As I think a lot of people don't think that way unless you're very fortunate to really know ahead
Hmm.
of time that you're going to do art for a living. And I think kind of like what you were talking earlier, like I went through the same mentality of like, I didn't know I could do this as a living, you know? And then, I originally went to college to be an elementary school teacher. And
Hmm.
then um, art was just something I loved doing as a hobby. And eventually I took a couple classes in college. And when I met a couple people there and I knew that I could do 3D for a living, that completely just changed my whole course of what I'm going to do for a living. And,
Hmm.
it was that transition of like, 2D is not necessarily dying out, but, 3D is where it's a lot more easier to go get a job, you know?
Sure. And did you take those art courses during that in that same college when you were going for elementary school teacher uh, degree?
Yeah. Yeah. So I took those classes and um, when I heard about, because I went to Gnomon, and when I heard about
Hmm.
Gnomon, I was like, oh, what is the school? And I researched, and then they had open houses, I think like every week or so. So I checked it out,
Hmm.
and then like when I went back to college, and I saw the difference in the level of skill that the students are coming out of. And I was just like, oh my God, like what am I doing at this college? I need to leave, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, so that completely just opened my eye, that open house. And I was like, oh my God, the bar is so much higher that I need to hit. So it
Hmm.
was pretty immediate. Like I just left that school and I went to Noman.
Now, so moving into uh, art education track, how was your family? How did they look at it? Were they pretty supportive in your
Yeah, I mean,
decision?
I am, like Asian, and like, a lot of Asian households they say like, "Oh, I want you to be a doctor," and blah blah blah. But thankfully, my parents just were very supportive of me, and they just needed to know that I was serious in the money that we're investing because, I'm very grateful that they did pay for my whole education. So, uh,
Hmm.
I just needed to prove to them like I was gonna put in the work. So they saw me like pulling all-nighters to like really get a portfolio done to get into the school.
Hmm.
And I think after seeing that, they were like, okay, we'll support you. So I feel very fortunate.
No, for sure. I came from a Asian household background too, so I
Right.
had that engineering track first before I jumped into actually considering art. So yeah, I think that's an important note to make is just if you're showing a lot of effort into what you're passionate about and what you want to do for a living and for the
Right.
rest of your life, I think it influences your support group. And eventually, in time, they see that, oh, wow, he or she really wants this, no matter what. You're just so
Right.
driven to the end goal. So, yeah, yeah, definitely. So they're just gonna be there
Yeah,
for you. So
I mean,
cool.
art in general is such a money investment to the parents or yourself if you're like pulling out loans, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think I heard a joke about that. There's a fellow artist that said, if I account for all the time that I spent learning how to do art, I could have had a PhD
For
in something
sure.
else. Yeah, yeah, basically. Yeah, definitely. So you went straight into Gnomon, and
Hmm.
how was that experience like?
It was definitely I knew that where I stood as an artist, because there's just so much talented people around me. So it was
Hmm.
constantly keeping you in check, like how it just showed what you were kind of lacking, right? And then
Hmm.
all these like insecurity builds up, and you're like, and then like you get into this like competitive mind state, and especially like
Yeah,
I felt like I wasn't. I feel like because I did intern for like best of term and all that, and
right.
even if I wasn't like chosen as, the quote unquote best of term, it did like push me, and it didn't make me go like, oh man, I just suck, right? And it made me more determined, be like, you know what, like I can try to be an underdog and keep pushing forward and
Right.
improve my skill. But then like the whole environment of like people there are very friendly, and they when you need a hand, they really do, like the students, they really do give you a hand and really help you with the software and all that. So it's a really good environment.
Cool. And how accessible were the mentors and the teachers at Gnomon?
I think they're pretty accessible as long as like you really push yourself and show that like you're putting in that effort, that they will reciprocate back. Um, there are a lot of students that can be lazy, and you know they don't do that extra step, and I am guilty of it too. I was once a student. I am still a student, as all artists,
Hmm.
like we're continuously learning, and the more effort you put in is you're going to get more out of it.
Mm. And then at Gnomon, did they have like portfolio reviews from other neighboring studios and whatnot?
Yeah, yeah. With the school, actually, it's really what they implemented really well is transitioning you into the job field. So when you get your demo reel ready, uh, they have like a portfolio review day where other different recruiters from different studios come and they check
Hmm.
out your work, and depending on if you have a good conversation and they kind of like you and your work, then who knows, they may pick you up and you will be hired there, right? Or you at least
Sure,
land an
sure.
interview. So I think, I think if you do go there, you have that for life. So if pretend you get laid off, you can always go to another employer preview day and
Oh, okay. Interesting.
have that access. Yeah,
Yeah, so even if you're already graduated, you can come back. Is that what you mean by that?
yeah, yeah. So they will
Oh, okay.
always like
Okay,
help you
cool.
out. Yeah.
Oh, good. Good, good. So one of the biggest challenges students face is standing out from the crowd. So when you're a student, what did you think you did differently than others that helped you get your work noticed and land job opportunities?
Um, For me, I wanted to approach it like more strategically. So when I did start to prepare for my reel, I had to think about what I was going to model. I didn't want it to be like just a series of characters, but rather like what can I show in each piece? Because you only have a short amount of time, about like a minute or two, to show what you're capable of, and you need to grab the recruiter's attention quick. So, typically what you are going to see in my portfolio is characters, because that's what I love to do most. But
Hmm.
in my reel, I try to really think about like, okay, I'm going to show something organic, something hard surface, and then something maybe like a whole scene of characters. So I
Okay.
think just as a student, just keep in mind of what you want to show in a short amount of time, that you can do a range of things, not just one thing, right?
Now, what does that time frame look like in terms of a portfolio review? How fast does it go by?
Like what do you mean?
Like, so for example, when you're so you get into a portfolio review, how long is a typical portfolio review last? So does it run around maybe like 3 to 5 minutes, about 10 minutes, etc.?
Oh, you mean at Gnomon?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
how long does it take for you to impress the
Oh,
recruiters?
right. Oh, for a recruiter. So like what I heard with recruiters, since they are looking at so much reels in a day, uh, they may just scrub through it or just watch a few seconds of it. I even heard like
Really?
don't even put music in your reel, because maybe you have a bad taste in music according to them. That may just throw them off and and not hire you for that. So just be very straight to the point, put your best piece in the beginning, and then,
Hmm.
go on from there.
Definitely. It's like what Travis mentioned years ago. It was you don't want to raise any questions that you don't want to be put forward. So,
Exactly.
mhm. So you've seen both sides of teaching education, your experience at Gnomon, and also
Mhm.
teaching through CGMA. So, in your opinion, what are the traits of your most successful students and even your classmates when you were still going to school?
Right. Definitely taking notes, because there's just so much information that you have to digest. So you take notes, um, attacking subjects from multiple directions, both in art and real life, which means, if
Hmm.
you are into characters, then you want to be interested in costume design, period pieces, and hard surface, and all different subject matters. That gives you a library of information so that you are able to create characters, if that's what you're interested in, or at least push yourself to know like the history, like if you're working on a period piece, like not just the costume of what it looks like, but really maybe understand what the history is. What also makes you a successful student is, you have to be proactive. You have to have life experience. If you have no experience to draw off of, you're not going to have much visual library to pull off from. So I think that's important.
Definitely.
It's a balance, because you have to put in that mileage and the hours to uh, get your skill up there. But it's just as important to step away from the computer so that you are refreshed. You have more more things in your library,
Sure.
and just
And
having a yeah.
no, go ahead. Go ahead, Anna. Yeah.
No, no. So just have a also what helps is having like a discipline plan, like having a plan ahead as a student. Like, as a student, you're just like, okay, I want to create this cool character. I want to do anything cool that's gonna help you stand out. But actually knowing like what your target is and what your end goal is, that's gonna put you way ahead, because when you're doing the research, when you know what studios are looking for, then um, you're ahead of the game, right?
Sure. And I was just going to add, so in addition to that, for example, when you're in say a brick and mortar school, you are tasked with completing homework, deadlines that are already kind of pushed onto you as a student. But when you do take an offline, or I mean, I'm sorry, an online course, it really does require a certain amount of discipline to stay
Mm-hmm.
on top of things, to turn in your homework, do your homework, turn your homework on time, and then make sure you attend the sessions as fitting for the class you're taking. So
Yeah. I mean, definitely, when you are in a brick and mortar school, you are forced to turn in your homework because you have to physically be there. But online, it does require much more self-discipline. And I mean, I highly recommend listening to other students' critiques because that's where you're going to learn a lot too. Um, you're going to see what other students are making mistakes in. And you may have not made that mistake yet, but you know ahead of what tripped the other student, and you learn from that, and you can also grow from that, right? Watching class demos and tutorials are 30% of the work, and 70% is doing the homework and getting professional feedback through your own research and your mentor and all that.
definitely, which brings me to one of our hot topics for tonight, which is the idea of talent. So oftentimes when we
Mhm.
start out, we have this tendency to look at professional work and feel like it's so high above, where you put it on a pedestal. Why do you think
Mhm.
we put that pressure on ourselves? And in your opinion, what is talent?
Um, so let's talk about talent. There it's more of a natural talent versus talent that you worked for. Uh, there is definitely people that has a natural talent. They have the eye to see things a lot more clearly than other people, and they just see the world maybe a bit differently. And and there's also the talent where people put in the mileage, and that's how they gain that skill. Both are very important, but I think the one that's even more important is people that really works hard for it. When you are, say, for instance, when you're learning a guitar or any type of instrument, you can hear that tune, and maybe you can kind of find those chords or where the keys are, and
Hmm.
you can hit those target by listening to it, and that can be a natural talent, right? But then if you go and try to write those the notes, you may not know how to do that because you don't have that mileage that maybe some other person actually did the work to actually understand those notes and to put down, and those skills might be equal, but I think the person that did the work can do both, right?
Sure.
So
Right.
yeah, both are important.
And I
And
think, yeah, just to add
yeah.
onto that, it's like the story, the fable of the tortoise and the hare. The
Right.
hare in this case is the talented individual, whereas the tortoise is the one slowly creeping away towards the finish line. And which
Mm-hmm.
brings a great point that for everyone that is listening, no matter what background or where you come from, if this is something that you're really committed to doing, or if this is what you're passionate about, if you put in the work, you get the right type of education, you get that proper mentorship, you can develop that talent and push it further.
Yeah, definitely. Even like when I first started, because modeling was something I was always interested in. And when I did take a traditional sculpting class, I was so bummed out by it. I was like, man, I just suck. It was a very new medium to me, and I guess I didn't really understand it well. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna go into animation. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, actually, I don't want to do that either. And then
Mm.
one day I just made up the mind, you know what, it's gonna be hard work. I'm gonna get better at it. And I just really stuck to it. And I'm glad I did because I absolutely love what I do.
Yeah, most definitely exciting.
The other
Another,
question was
yeah,
the pressure. What was it?
yes. So why do you think we put pressure on ourselves, put that amount of pressure on ourselves as artists?
I think it's because as artists, you always aim for that quote unquote perfection, right? But
Hmm.
there is no such thing. You should always strive to get um, excellent work, right?
Hmm.
But
Right.
yeah, you'll know. I feel like you're only as best as your last piece. So whatever your last piece was, um, you should always try to get better than that, right? But I think
Sure.
that also that pressure comes from especially the society we live in now, social media, I feel like that
Hmm.
really attributes to that whole pressure. And you see so much awesome talent out there, and you don't see the mileage of that artist put into. You just see that immediate result.
Right.
And I think that trips a lot of people, but
Hmm.
I don't think as students you shouldn't focus on that. Try to get inspiration. Yes, get inspiration from artists, but also get inspired by other things, what you're interested in, like subject matters. And because it just breeds insecurity sometimes when you're just constantly comparing yourself. And I don't think it's
No,
good.
definitely. Yeah. Too much is not always a good thing, but just the right amount is always perfect.
Hmm.
And another way I heard of the way we approach pressure is as artists, it's like if you could imagine yourself a like a mountain climber or a hiker, you're hiking all the way to the top of the mountain, and then once you finally get to the summit, oh wow, there's another mountain up ahead that's much
Right.
higher. So this yeah, this ongoing thing, it's
Right.
perpetual where throughout your life you'll definitely come across many mountains. You will
Hmm.
continue hiking up them and it's just going to keep going on and on. I think and it's good. And I think that's what makes our career field so exciting is that
Right.
you never saturate or end up at a position where you're just that's it, there's no growth
Exactly.
anymore. And that's so
Yeah.
scary for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, sometimes I think about, oh, when I'm old, I still have things I can learn. Sounds very
Yeah.
nerdy of me, but
No, not at all.
but you're always
Uh,
you're always able to grow and always learn something new, which is really cool.
definitely. So another topic I like to touch on is the idea of personal projects. Why is it
Hmm.
important for young artists to do personal work?
Um, let's say I've, especially when I started working, um, doing art as a living, um, I start to see the main pitfalls of not doing personal art. So if you are the type of artist that goes into work, clock in, and just get the job done, and you go home and you're just rinse and repeat, right? You're never
Hmm.
growing. You're just doing the bare minimum of what is required to keep your position. And the thing about art is always changing. There's always new softwares. There's some student that is getting ahead of you because they are in touch with the newest software that you didn't
Right.
have when you were at school. So if you are not on top of your game, say for instance, you get let go, and which is a very common thing in this industry, then you need to be prepared for that. You need to be prepared to get let go and have a portfolio ready so that you can transition into a different studio. Other and the other reason for that you should have personal work is that's where the most growth happens. Um, I think once you start working, I feel like you forget why you wanted to do this in the first place,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you forget you did this because it was fun. And
Sure.
um, a lot of people do forget that, especially even in when I was demo reel class in school. I saw people having like mental breakdown,
Oh
and
no.
then when I actually got a job, I was like, oh, that thing was like nothing compared to what I'm doing now, right? So it's all
Hmm.
perspective, but I think you should always, always do personal work. Um, you're gonna learn the most there, and you're exploring. You're developing your pipeline.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another opportunity to be experimenting, if I could say
Hmm.
that. It's, it's away from the demands of the pipeline or the production pipeline. So you're more free to explore other avenues. You're free to fail, as I could say. So,
Exactly. And like your
and
taste develops over
mhm,
time too. So like if in
sure.
the beginning, you like when I started school, I was like, oh my God, like everything is so amazing. I was just impressed by everything I saw.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then as I kind of gained a little bit more maturity, just let me emphasize a little bit. like I felt like my taste started to develop into different genres. So I'm like, oh, I don't
Mhm.
want to do just hyper stylized things anymore. I want to kind of challenge myself and maybe push my stylized model towards a little bit of realism, right? And that's kind of like what my
Sure.
class is about because I actually kind of like playing with that balance.
Definitely. And yeah, so we're extremely grateful to have you on board for teaching our stylized character creation course. And as more and more studios expand their genres, the demand for artists that have a great understanding of appeal and stylization is rapidly growing. So, in
Mhm.
your opinion, what is often most overlooked in a stylized character student portfolio?
Uh, I think a lot of students can use stylization as a crutch. So, crutch is a weakness. Um, so in my class, stylization doesn't mean it's not focused, right? It doesn't mean it's unfocused. So, but it's rather like you need to hit a target and you need to have a focused direction.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that you can get away with, I don't need to know anatomy. Actually, if you're doing stylized, you definitely need to know anatomy because you don't have muscle details or other things that you can rely on to show that you understand forms. And
Sure.
when you are doing stylized, you are down with the bare minimum. And if you don't know that, it's going to definitely show. So I think that's one of the main things. And um, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. In addition to that, speaking of anatomy, so when you're working in 3D, it's much different than actually drawing in 2D. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of different ranges. But when we start to apply anatomy to our stylized characters, is it more of a hint or a subtlety that really gets that model to past the last 10% of the design?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely subtlety and the silhouette and form, right? Um, you know, uh, you may be into really realistic type of model versus very
Hmm.
stylized model, but even within all that range, form is your main foundation that you need to know. You cannot be a modeler without understanding forms because that's what modeling is, right? And uh, that's what I see a lot of students struggling with, forms. And
Hmm.
in order to do that, you have to I think, constantly rotating your model. But more than that, uh, it's just understanding how it looks as a whole. Because when you are doing 2D, it needs to look good from one angle, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and 2D is a challenge in itself. Like if I try to draw, like the way my mind works from drawing versus 3D is very different, and I have a hard time drawing like in perspective or finding that right form in 2D. So form is definitely what every modeler needs to work on.
Hmm. Hmm. And do you think that so like problem solving when it comes to stylization, is it a good habit to start maybe practicing it in 2D first before 3D?
um, Stylization, I think, because stylization could be a range of things. It
Sure.
could look like Disney, it could look like anything other than that. So 2D is always going to help you 3D. So if you have that
Hmm.
kind of back and forth to feed each other, it's definitely going to help. It's not going to hurt.
Sure. And so in addition to that, when you work on a 2D concept, say like a stylized concept, how committed are you to the original artwork or do you deviate?
Oh, okay. So is this at work versus personal or both?
Let's just tackle both. It'd be nice to see both sides of it.
Okay. So if it's personal, I always deviate because it's more of I'm developing my idea.
Hmm.
If it's at work, you're given a concept, then you definitely have to copy it exactly. Unless the concept is very loose and your boss says, hey, like you can kind of put your own interpretation into it. But that's as far as it should go. At work and as an artist, you tend to have your own opinion and what you think looks cool. And when you
Hmm.
get a concept, I hear a lot of artists go like, "Oh, that looks stupid," or "Oh, that looks
Hmm.
cool." And when it does look stupid, they obviously want to have some sort of input in it. But you have to remember, like, you're in a job, just get the work done and just follow the directions.
Sure. And I just like to take a little side note. Maybe we could even just chat about what a day is like at Legacy Effects for
Mm.
you.
Okay, yeah, I think one of the coolest thing about legacy effects, it's definitely all the cool things you can see on a daily basis. It's not just all living in a computer. You can walk around, and since our main pipeline is 3D modeling to 3D printing, everything you're modeling, you're able to see printed in front of you. And it's very surprising of like what it looks like on screen versus in real life. And you
Hmm.
realize, oh wow, I messed up there. And you can see how light catches the model, your forms. So it
Sure.
really makes you learn quickly of what that form is doing. Um,
Hmm.
so what is also nice about Legacy is that it is an 8 to 5 job, which I heard is very rare in this industry. Um, it is a very set time. Unless like there is a really time crunch, then I would have to stay overtime. But other than that,
Hmm.
it gives me room to go home and work on my personal art, which makes it really nice. At work, we are working as a team. We do have sometimes a moments of where we are able to have designs done for a project.
Hmm.
But yeah, we are 3D printing stuff, we are engineering, we're working with people in the shop, and we see things come to life, which is really cool. Like all the pack room stuff that we worked on, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it was all 3D modeled and all put together, and it's really cool to see um, like something physical on screen um, when you watch the film that you worked on.
Nice, nice, definitely. And just for people just working towards breaking into the industry that haven't experienced what a crunch week feels like, how's that for you over at Legacy Effects?
uh, I
Yeah.
think
Like how
one of
does overtime feel like for you? Yeah.
if there's good company around, then it's all good. Like we just like put on
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's times when we have to come in the weekend and get things done.
Mm,
There was
okay.
times when I stayed at work over 12 hours, which was brutal because I
Dang.
just feel my body deteriorating. But it's very
Yeah.
rare. So
Right, right. Yeah.
when you
But
have
but it's
to,
always good to know though. So
yeah, and you get overtime, so it's okay.
yeah, there you go. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Um, and that's amazing that, it's a rare situation to be in a kind of a 9 to 5 type of position. So,
Hmm.
which makes it perfect for you because now you can work on characters, even on your stylized side, which is really fascinating to watch you develop that style. So, one of the things that I think is important to touch on is this idea of gesture and rhythm. And we were talking about it prior to the stream, but I think it'd be nice to elaborate on it just for our listeners.
Right. Gesture and rhythm. So that's like a tricky one. You have to understand design rules. A lot of times, you hear learn the rules to break them, right? So so to name a few of design rules, so like the 70-30 rule, like don't make everything symmetrical, have tapering lines, contrasting lines, having offset rhythms, right?
Hmm.
Lines feeding into each other. Those are all um, tactics to give you a gestural rhythm and flow. Um, that's what you're constantly looking for, especially like when you get to a stage where like for like character modeling, right? When you start
Hmm.
posing, you look for areas where you can be a bit more gestural and not have tangent areas and all that. That also goes with when you're designing a character, you have to be mindful of rhythm and all that. But
Right. Hmm.
yeah, it's
And that's
I think you it's through mileage, I think you'll start to understand it. If
sure.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, when I was recommending the idea of, say, just getting an idea of how to, figure drawing
Hmm.
at its core is understanding how forms, the rhythm of forms turn into one another,
Yeah,
how they insert and overlap. And once you start to get a good grasp of that, you can apply that to your models. And when you look at like it, say, for example, you look at the work from the team at Disney,
right.
even say from Ryan Tottle or Lena, uh,
Hmm.
immediately you can tell how those forms are they just blend. It's so visually appealing to look
Right.
at. And I think that's what we're striving for in our
Yeah,
work.
yeah, and I think the whole gesture and rhythm is you're in control as an artist, you're in control of guiding your audience of where to look at. And you are using those design rules to be like, hey, look over here, here, and here. And, those like lines feeding into each other, that helps moving your eye around the canvas. And I think, one of my greatest inspiration is, Norman Rockwell. I mean, I have like three pieces, right? Or two, I don't know,
Sure.
trying to just riffing off of him. But just looking at his work is a great teacher of how he's thinking of rhythm and gesture and all that. So looking at these old school artists will teach you um, what you need to know.
Definitely. And on top of that, on the topic of gesture, how often do you redline your own work and draw over it?
Um, Often, but I should do it even more.
Okay.
As I think like students, they're like, oh, how long did this take you? Or even like other professionals, how long did this take you?
Hmm.
Because, speed is important too, especially like when you're working.
Sure.
But, it shouldn't be all about just go, 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 go. Make sure you are
Right.
stepping back and you're looking
Hmm.
at your piece as a whole. Like if you are working in ZBrush, zoom your character out. Like I think a lot of people tends to just zoom all the way in and just stay in that zoomed in focused area. But you need to make sure you zoom out and look at the piece as a whole and
Hmm.
attack it critically, not just
Right.
emotionally.
Sure, definitely. And that's something that I do as well with my work. One way is to flip the canvas. It's just another way to refresh your eyes. And
Yeah,
literally stepping away from the Cintiq or the Wacom tablet and just be like, okay, I need to take a break, refreshing my eyes. And when you come back, it's amazing. You start seeing things that you're like, what? Did I really just do that? Oh,
yeah.
shoot. I gotta fix it. So
And then you like flip it back. You're like, okay, that looks better.
I know.
Just kidding.
Hopefully, right. Yeah. Yeah. Spoiler alert. So, so which brings me to your class summary. So I'd like to take the time to talk about your course and what students can expect from it. So you are
Right.
teaching our stylized character creation. So maybe we could just chat about what can they expect.
Okay, so my class is geared towards more for, people that want to like start out. Maybe not completely like newbie at ZBrush because it's not really going over the whole software. But if you are kind of starting out or maybe a professional that wants to do something different, uh, maybe this is a class for you. It's just adding some fun into your work. I cover anatomy, I cover planes and different design rules and how to focus on your character. And mostly it's meant to be fun. It's supposed to you're supposed to be creating a character that's your mascot. or a character that you've been wanting to make, and you're just having trouble hitting a stylization mark. So I'm just kind of helping you guide your way through. Yeah, so I mean, we can even like jump onto my ZBrush and I can show you what I've been working on for the class.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Let me switch over to you.
Yeah,
Get
it's
you
the
going.
Hannah K, I believe. So there's
And
two
not the one
Hannahs.
that
So
you're on right now.
yeah,
So
so the
the one
Hannah
that.
K.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Make you see if that works. Did it switch over?
Um, Let me
Try one
see.
more time.
I don't think it did.
Okay, because I can see your mic flashing on just the one without the K. Okay, now I see the web
Okay.
version.
Right.
Let me try again. So make presenter. Okay, it should work now.
Okay, there you go. Okay. Share. Okay. All right, so and this image is kind of what I've been going through in my class. It's pretty straightforward. But before we dive into that, I wanted to show the scale of stylization chart. And what I wanted to show was that, 10 being hyper realistic and one being super cartoony, and everything in between is up to the artist of what they think lands where. So what number five can be very different for another artist what a five can be. So in the beginning of class we're gonna I make all students make this chart so that they have a visual guideline of what mark they should hit. So yeah, so this is just one way of helping you like, hey, like I want to reach this type of stylization.
Mm-hmm.
Because stylization is a range. It's not just one type of
Sure.
look. Um, so this is just a block out, and then a lot of people do tend to block out this way, and I find it very efficient. I used to use Z spheres a lot, but I find this way to be a lot better because it's like clay a bit. You have like your main big shapes there already, and then it's just kind of adding in your forms, and it's just you're just refining it all the way through. So this week I'm just focusing on getting all my topology ready, and then yeah, so I just added all these props in Maya. So I'm gonna get my topology ready and then start posing him this week, and then I want to head into lighting and all that so I can have a final image eventually.
Mm.
Um, and before
Cool.
to promote the class, I did the
Mm-hmm.
rabbit, but I haven't lit him yet. So yeah, so I guess I'm making like a series of animals characters with
Yeah.
clothes.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. You should make it like a cinematic scene once you get all your characters
I
together.
know.
That'd be
I am actually
so,
thinking
so
about
cool.
maybe I should like make a series of character like lineup of it. But yeah,
Yeah,
and I
yeah, yeah.
also maybe wanted to implement in my class like having a week of like let's just have fun modeling something stylized.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I think we all forget that of just having fun, right? Um,
Sure.
so like I do stupid little projects like this where I'm like, have you ever seen little hamsters eating food?
Oh, geez. That's awesome.
So I never finished it, but I did this like during like lunch at work,
That's so
and
cool.
it's just a way of like, hey, let's just do something stupid and what you like to do, what you like to look at on the internet.
Yeah, yeah. It's meme modeling, like meme, meme
Yeah,
modeling. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
I don't know. Awesome.
Yeah.
And just and then also, is the Legacy Effects Tour a go? You guys gonna do that for week 11?
Yeah, yeah. If I was still contemplating if I should implement that in my second course, so the course coming up.
Okay.
So maybe we can have a vote or something. The course right now, like a lot of my students, they all live out of state or out of town,
Oh, I
so it's
see.
hard for
Okay.
them to come over here, which I completely understand. Um,
Hmm.
and if you're a student and you just want to have a tour that you're more than welcome to, I can schedule if it's just you, maybe a private tour. But
Hmm.
yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Well, it should be exciting, and I'm looking forward to all your students' work. I look forward
Mhm.
to seeing them online and on CG Society. And class starts on April 28th. I'll be linking the course to Hannah in the chat right now. So if you're interested, please sign up. We're about a week to go before we all kick off. And then also, before I hand it off to the audience for Q&A, I'd like to ask you one last question for the night.
Mhm.
And it's about, if you could give advice to your younger art self, what advice would you give her?
Um, that's difficult. But I would
Mhm.
just tell myself to, have fun in the process of everything. Definitely listen to your teachers. You don't have to take all advice what the teachers give you because, they may give you advice from a standpoint of what they experience in, let's say, a more realism type of studio versus a stylization studio. Um,
Mhm.
I will tell myself to create a portfolio, my personal work library early on.
Mhm.
I realized how important that is a little later, but
Mhm.
I think I will tell myself that early on. Yeah.
Nice. Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
so at this point, I'd like to open the floor to the audience for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box. And then Hannah, I'm going to go switch over back to my screen.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okie dokie. Yeah, so if you have any questions, just please post up and then we'll get to it. Uh, go ahead, Jose. It doesn't matter. It's all good. Off
Yeah.
topic, on topic, off the wall topic. It's all good. All right. So Jose asks, what would the best first step for someone like me from Latin America to get into the industry? Especially since I've heard recently that companies in the US and Canada don't hire or relocate people because of how hard and expensive it's become. Do you have any experience with
Yes.
that, Hannah?
I personally haven't because I was born here, but I
Sure.
do
Yeah.
have I do have friends that did experience this. One way to combat that is get yourself known, have a presence in the online community so that you are being known as a integral part of this industry. Being involved in like competitions, winning awards, that's going to help you because those are all things I heard that you could put in to applying a visa. Um,
Hmm.
I can't like dive into it as much because I've never been through that process, but this is what my friends told me. I know that they are all the awards that they win, they put that into their whatever packet that they have to show them. Um,
Okay.
um, yeah.
So,
Sorry, I was reading the
oh,
question that was coming next.
oh, no worries. Let me, yeah. So Martin asks, when you're not grinding on your portfolio, what are some things you can do in your portfolio downtime that will still benefit your art and your artistic eye?
Mm, it depends on like what are you interested in? Like when I'm not doing art, I don't like being at home. So I want to go out, I want to go hiking, I want to see different sites like going to national parks, going to different canyons, and just being in a different mindset of just doing art to do art and just being inspired by the world around me. So um, I am refreshed, even though maybe I didn't get much of a visual library or whatnot. At least I'm coming in with a refreshed mind. And I think that's like taking care of your mental state is important too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Know
Yeah.
when to rest the mind and restore the creative soul.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Cool. Do you have anything upcoming, Hannah? Any places that you'd like to visit soon or planning on visiting?
Well, right now, I am on maternity leave, so I'm kind of like
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
bound down at home, and
Definitely.
so it's like hard for me to think about, oh, I want to do this, this, and that. But I do
Yeah.
want to.
That's true.
I'm just waiting for my body to be back 100% so I can
Hmm.
go do the things that I want to do.
Cool. Yeah. All good. And weren't you into photography? Didn't you like shoot photos too? Or was that more of
Um,
Travis? Was he
it's more
into
of a
he's more into
Travis thing.
photos?
Yeah,
Okay.
he bought a bunch of equipments, and it's really cool, like the type of equipments he got, because it makes
Yeah.
the biggest difference in the world of the quality you get.
Sure.
But yeah.
Hmm. And a question from me is, how do you like to organize your reference?
Like how do I get my reference?
Yeah, what do you use? Pinterest? Are you more into searching, just Google searching, etc.?
I do both. And then I use
Okay.
this thing called Pure Ref. But I think
Oh
I
yeah,
do
yeah,
like
it's actually good software.
I think I do like Pinterest better because you're able to make those like subfolders.
Yep.
Whereas like Google, I need to like make those folder for myself, like in my drive. So
Hmm.
Pinterest is definitely a rabbit hole, which is good and
Oh
bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Be careful. You could definitely
Yeah.
dive deep. You know, it's another rabbit hole. This is a secret for all of you that's on this stream, but what I've been using actually is Google Maps, Street View.
Oh, really?
And the way, yeah. So for example, if I need reference, I actually just
Hmm.
Google map the location and I jump into Street View and then I
Hmm.
just start taking notes and are
Oh
like
my God, that's so
screen
funny.
caps. Yeah, and
Um,
I don't think many people know about that.
oh,
So that might be just a little secret between all of us, but
yeah,
you could
that's really
share it.
cool.
It's okay. Yeah, yeah, no, it's
Um,
definitely.
Another
I
cool thing
like,
is
yeah, go ahead.
if you have VR, they have like the Google
Oh,
Map thing,
nice.
so you can like actually
Really,
go into the streets and like
that's
look at.
insane.
Yeah, it's
I might
pretty
just, my mind just might blow up
cool.
if I put the headset on. So,
Yeah.
uh, Martin asked if you could link your Pinterest in the chat. That'd be great.
Yeah, let me try that. The thing about me, I'm kind of weird. I make all my folder private, but I can make it
Oh,
unprivate.
okay.
Is it like I just put pinterest.com slash like
Um, so
my
when I found
address?
my board, I just went to Pinterest and then I think your profile name should be on the right-hand side.
Oh,
And
okay.
then, right. And then when you click your name, that Pinterest link that's in the address bar, that should be the one to share.
Oh, okay, got it. It's the address is my old address, so don't make fun of me. I need to change it. Um,
What's the origin of that name?
it was actually from
Bananu. What was
banana.
it? Oh, banana. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I
Got
don't
it.
know.
Got it.
I don't know how to change it. Yeah, it's from my. I think it's through my Facebook. That's why it did
Yeah.
that.
Oh, no
Uh,
worries. That's okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I used to have a handle called it used to be the name of my old garage band. It was called Direct Drive. Don't Google it. There's no music out there anymore. But
It sounds
No, that was
cool.
just a little interesting. Yeah, because I used to like play with like turntables, and then they had this thing called direct drive, which is not belt driven. It was more gear driven. So yeah, anyways, yeah. So that's where it came from. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, Steve, not a problem. You're welcome. The Google Maps reference. That's cool. You found a load of perfect reference. I think
Yeah,
many people
especially
once
with
they
what you
start,
do.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So like a lot of my work, I'm hovering around Europe, so mostly located in South Italy. And yeah, I'm just taking a drive up the Amalfi Coast digitally, but it works. So
That's funny. Way to be
yeah,
resourceful.
yeah.
All right,
Uh,
cool.
any more questions in the chat? Definitely, yeah. That's what I usually use it for too, Steve. Steve said he found streets and alleyways using the Google reference. Yeah, even with if you like peek through say parts of Spain, lots of great reference there too. Like Madrid, boom, street view, boom. There you go. Architectural reference. That's it. All right. So, Martin, I got another question if that's okay.
Uh-huh.
Definitely that is okay. Favorite contemporary artist first, and then the second question is favorite old school artist.
Old school artist is definitely Norman Rockwell because I could look at his work all day and just be inspired by it all the time. Contemporary artist. There's so much artists out there. It's hard to choose one. Uh, if I had to choose, on Instagram, there's this watercolor painter that I really like. I think her name is like Chris Hong or something.
Hmm.
Uh, I found her through Instagram, but she makes these really cute watercolor paintings, and it's just really fun to look at. And she shows like all her process. So I actually went to the store and bought watercolor. I was like,
Oh,
damn, this is
nice.
harder than I thought.
Oh, yeah. I did the same
Yeah,
thing.
because
No
I was
worries.
when you yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Sometimes I look
you
at
know,
art
me.
and it's like
Good. Yeah.
yeah, like when I look at art and like people doing, I'm like, oh, that looks really easy. I think I could do that. And then I actually want to try to do it. It's not the case.
Hmm. Yeah, I had that same feeling, and I was watching some old animation films, say, for example, like Prince of Egypt, and most of the backgrounds
Oh,
were,
I love that
painted
movie.
in acrylic, and they were painted in acrylic, right? So I said, okay, go on
What?
Amazon, buy buy an acrylic set. Let's see how this goes. It ain't Photoshop, that's for sure.
Wow, I didn't know that was acrylic.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff was, I mean, that was a transitional period for DreamWorks.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who knew how to use Photoshop, they were able to develop their keyframes there. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, a lot of it was done in acrylic. Yeah, so it's very impressive. Yeah,
Wow, yeah, I love that movie. I memorized
yeah.
like all the songs in that.
Oh yeah, me too. We definitely need to do a karaoke session one time, I guess.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
dangerous.
just for fun. Just for fun. Okay, let's see. So Steve asks, "Hi Hannah, do you rig the model in Maya?"
I don't tend to rig my models. I did learn how to rig a while ago, like back in the school days. I kind of forgot everything, to be honest. When I do my work, I'm usually more, my angle is more of an illustration piece or something like that. Or maybe I'm just modeling a character. So, eventually, when I have the time, I should brush up on the rigging again because it does uh, give you a lot of range of different poses, but they're
Mhm.
not rigged.
And most of the time, posing, you just like to use it. I mean, do it in ZBrush.
Yeah, I just use the transpose tool. It takes a bit longer. I mean, I think both takes long. Like the transpose tool takes long in the beginning,
Hmm.
uh, and you can't really like move it after you pose it. But when you rig it, you're able to do a lot of different types of poses, which does take a longer upfront also, but you get quick results towards the end.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
ZBrush does. It would be cool if they have a cool rigging system in ZBrush.
Any more questions, guys?
I guess not.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's do. Yeah,
yeah,
like
thanks
10
for
more
having me,
seconds. Yeah,
Michael.
yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a pleasure, and it's nice to finally catch up with you. I know it's been so long. It's been close to a year since I was in your class with Travis, so definitely
Yeah,
nice
just time
catching up with
flies.
you. Yeah, and yeah, too bad we couldn't see each other over at CTN. I know you had something to take care of, so no worries. But
Oh, right, right. Yeah. Um, yeah, but it's cool seeing you do those mini tutorials and seeing your
oh, for sure.
presence online, and seeing you grow. It's really cool.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jose. Yeah, definitely. We need a portfolio class reunion. That would be definitely fun. Yeah, and it'd be great if you could come by California, Jose, too. I mean, even you, Martin, you need to get out from Hawaii. I know you don't want to leave that place. It's such a gorgeous, awesome place to visit in.
Yeah,
But
LA's
it'd be
ugly.
it'd be great. Yeah, maybe we could do like maybe in the Bay Area or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, well, oh yeah, definitely, Martin. Yeah, that would be awesome too. Yeah, we should do a Hawaii trip. Yeah, field trip. That's what we should call it. So, well, perfect. Well, Hannah, thank you once again for your time. And for our listeners and
Mhm.
audience, where can they connect and follow your work online?
You
Oh, you
can
mentioned.
follow me. You can follow me on Instagram. Let's see.
Hmm.
Lily.instagram.com. Okay, there's that, and Facebook also, which is same Hannah King art. So I'll just post all my work over there, and then anything future that I start to create, I'll announce it over there also.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in and for your great questions. Please connect with us on Facebook at CG Society Meetup, and you can catch the webinar replay via cgsociety.org.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you. I'm Michael Kabuko, signing off for tonight. Take care, Hannah. Take care, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. All right. See you guys. Peace.
See
Bye-bye.
ya. Bye.